doing?
How are you?
Good. See you.
Great to be here.
Good. How are you? Good. Thank you.
In charge of sound.
No, I'm just streaming to my social media page. Yeah. I'm streaming it in the delegate group. Yeah.
So are they broadcasting this?
Yes, sir. Like right now. I'm hoping to get you on YouTube. My wife interviewed the other two guys. Hey, Laney. Yeah? Yeah, I know.
So I took this week off so that I ran into some of the trash.
We follow a
W-A-B-E-L, right?
anyway, this really nice guy.
I figured that guy had a...
All right, the time for questions written on cards is closed.
Oh, yeah?
Does that make anybody unhappy? Because we're trying to make people
How you doing?
happy at the very beginning of this
ya.
debate.
too. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for being here.
Anybody have
Yeah, no
an
problem.
objection to that? Okay.
We might think of a question in between. So
Say that again.
we need more cards handed out.
Card. All you have to do is speak up. I'll give you a card.
It's going to be awesome.
Are you the good one?
I knew he could.
Yeah.
We need to do it. And Craig's good. That's why I asked this for something on Yeah, you can't have Are you finished? Yeah. Awesome.
Which beach?
Candidates, if you'll come up. Welcome, everybody. This is our moderated debate for the Utah County Sheriff's position. We're glad to have each of you here. We have a healthy amount of cards, so we'll be going through those questions throughout the evening. My name is David Atchison. I'm a former county, Marion, what are we? County chair. Utah County Republican Party chair. And I've conducted many of these debates, and it's a real thrill for me to be here, and I love this process. Absolutely love it. We will start with a prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by the Harpers.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are thankful for this day to gather together and to get to know these candidates so that we can listen to thy spirit and to be able to discern which candidate will be able to serve us best. And we're thankful to be able to live in a country where we get to help make these decisions and to be able to be free. And please bless us that we'll all be able to accomplish those things that we need to in this role, and that the moderator and the candidates will be able to know the right ways to ask and answer the questions so that we will have the information that we need to make our decisions. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Apparently, a lot of people have been asking Craig where this is going to be live streamed. It's being live streamed right now on Facebook at facebook.com/Adam4Utah, and on YouTube at youtube.com/LifeIsDriving. Thanks.
You're going to thank me. I just was playing with the thermostat, so we're going to see if we can get up in here just a little more. If we could prop those doors open and prop those doors open, Brian.
There's a lot of noise out there.
Oh, is there?
But I don't think you want to prop open.
Bunch of candidates. Okay. All right, welcome. The time right now is 7:17. Shall we go to 8:30? Okay. Does that say? Well, if we go till we're done, that'll be about 1:30. So, which is fine for some folks, but I think for the majority of us, let's try to go for 8:30. Lisa Shepard, what are you saying? 9? How about this? We'll see how it's going at 8:30. Okay? But I'll be the judge. That's why I'm here. Welcome, gentlemen. Glad to have you here. Would you please take 30 seconds each and introduce yourself?
And we'll start here.
And I don't know these people, so that's a good thing, I think. So I don't know your names. Act as if somebody doesn't know your name and who you are.
All right, I guess it's working.
And you can stand or sit. It's up to you.
Great, thanks. My name's Hyrum Cox. I'm running for Utah County Sheriff. I would ask for your vote support. I'm a father, a husband. I've been a deputy sheriff for over 16 years. Prior to getting into law enforcement, I ran a family business with about 50 employees. My education's in business administration. I've worked all of the different areas of the sheriff's office, from corrections to judicial to patrol. And I'm very passionate about the constitutional guardianship role of the sheriff's office and the roles that office can play in our daily lives is profoundly important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. My name is Jeff Wabel. Lived in Utah all my life. Lived in Utah County for about 25 years. Married 5 girls I didn't marry 5 girls. I'm married with 5 girls. Little granddaughter, about a year and a half old. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, legal research. Run my own business, our family business, pretty successful here in Utah County, spreading out through Utah and into Idaho shortly.
It's time.
What's that?
Time.
Wow, that goes fast.
Yes, it does. Next person.
Hi, I'm Mike Smith. I am your current Utah County Sheriff. I'm a family man. My wife's here. She's awesome. And I have 5 children and a granddaughter on the way. I've been in law enforcement for 28 years. Started in Pleasant Grove. If you think about the positions that you can have in leadership, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, chief of police, SWAT team leader, and commander, I've held all those. I have a bachelor's degree in emergency management and administration, and I graduated from the FBI National Academy, which is like a leadership officer candidate type school. You go for 3 months to Quantico, Virginia, and go through that process. It is an honor to serve as your sheriff, and it would be an honor to serve you again.
Thank you. This is going to work. We're going to hold our applause all night. And at the end, everybody will get a big round of applause. So this is a 2-minute answer. And you've got paper and pen there, so you can write it down and hopefully prepare just a little bit. So what are the most important qualifications to be the sheriff? And why do you want to be the sheriff? Are there some personal benefits to that? So the hardest job of being the moderator is switching up the order in which they answer. So I may mess up. And if I do, and it's too bad, I mean, it's horrible, then just raise your hand and say I'm favoring one over the other. So we'll go Jeff, Hyrum, and Mike in that order. So Jeff, take it away, 2 minutes.
I think several of the most important things is caring about the people that we serve, caring about their constitutional rights, caring about what we stand for and stand in protection of. With the Sheriff's Office for 18 and a half years before leaving there and going to Warren City. They're very similar in what we do on a daily basis, but the Sheriff's Office, the Office of Sheriff is the last line of defense for his citizens. It's very important that the person that holds that position has integrity, that person has experience. I'm here to tell you today, I don't see that in Mike Smith. I know things that Mike Smith has done during his career, both at Pleasant Grove and at the Sheriff's Office, and I think it's important that stuff comes to light. And that's why I'm here. I'm running for sheriff because I think you need to know that, and I think you deserve to have better representation in that position.
So just first off, nobody gets to comment from the audience. Secondly, I don't love the tone of what you said, so I'm going to be aware of that, okay? It's fine what you said, but this is not a bashing session on any candidate.
Well, I didn't mean it as bashing, I'm sorry. I meant it as just truth.
I understand. I hear your answer.
It's a debate. They're not supposed to be nice. This is a debate.
I understand. I'm in charge here, okay?
Actually, sir, no, you're not. We are. We're the delegates.
Hey, you know what?
He's a moderator.
Well, we don't like it. You are supposed to lead.
Yeah, we'll thank
You
you.
work for us. Remember that. Go. You can leave. You don't like to leave.
I've been invited to moderate this discussion. I have proof. So I have experience in moderating these. If you want to talk to anybody that's worked with me, they will tell you that I'm fair.
Will there be a
So,
rebuttal?
Maybe. So just keep that in mind, that this is going to be a very civil opportunity for people to share very strong feelings. Okay? All right, so next up, Hyrum.
Thank you. The most important qualifications to be sheriff is having relevant experience in the areas specific to the sheriff's office. The largest area of employment, the largest area of budget, the largest area of liability for the county is the jail. I have 8 years of experience in corrections. There's so much more to the sheriff's office than just patrol. We've got our judicial division, which is filled with several different areas, including community supervision, which is like county probation. The patrol is also an important part of the sheriff's office. I have experience in all of those areas. As far as why do I want to be sheriff? That is an excellent question that my wife keeps asking me every single day. And I think as far as any personal benefit, I think that there's a lot of, I'm sure Mike can attest to this, there's probably more stress than benefit that would go with a job like this. I'm running because I care. I'm running because I'm passionate about the things that I believe that we can do for the community. And I'm running for you guys. There's a lot of things that people have reached out to me and expressed their concerns in areas where they wish they had support, and that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you. Mike.
Yes, thank you. So qualifications, I think it's important. This is a top level law enforcement administrative position. The largest agency in the county, second largest sheriff's office in the state. So qualifications become huge, and I think it's important to look at a resume, to look just like you would any job. You know, through my career, I've been every leadership position you can think of in a law enforcement agency. I've held that position, whether it's a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, a chief of police. I applied for chief of police, 50 other candidates applied for chief of police, and I made it through that process and was given the position. I ran for sheriff last term and was elected. I was your candidate that came out of the convention. So I've had those experiences, those qualifications. I can tell you I've sat on a lot of boards with hiring chiefs of police around this county. And when resumes come in that don't hold those essential leadership qualifications, they don't get an interview, they don't make the cut. These positions are not where you learn how to be a leader. You need to have had those experiences along the way. This is a tough job. It has been a tough job. It's been an honor to serve you. Why I want to do it, I can tell you when I was a chief of police, I was very, very happy in that position. And when the sheriff was going to retire, I had a lot of people approach me, and I did a lot of soul searching, and especially with my wife, and making sure this is a partnership here, because we knew this job was going to be hard. And so I knew I was supposed to do it, and that's why I did it. I love this county. I was raised in this county. I want this county to have vision. I don't want it to become a Salt Lake County. I want it to be the special Utah County that it has always been. And that's with working with all the agencies in this valley to make sure that we are providing as a team, and with you as our team, the best public safety service that we can, so we can keep Utah County the amazing place that it is to live and raise a family. That's why I do it. I'm in it for you. My track record is proven. That's the thing about me, is look at the track record.
Thank you. This next question, and I'll say that there's going to be a question at some point toward the end, and it says this. Are there any statements about your campaign or you that you feel are misleading and that you'd like to address? So that'll come later, and so make a note of that, and if there's something that comes up, then you'll have a chance to address that for 2 minutes toward the end of this debate. And this one is a 1-minute answer, and it's about budget. So, and I'm going to read, I've got a conglomeration of questions, so the topic is budget, okay? And here are some questions that people have. You'll have a minute to respond. What changes would you make if the department budget were reduced by 20%? What was the budget used for this year? What would you prioritize for the budget? What are your frustrations with the budget? What would you do differently? What should the commissioners do differently to fund the sheriff's office? We're actually going to go with 90 seconds on this one.
Yeah. Right.
How would you spend your budget? What changes would you make if it was reduced by 20%? What was the budget used for this year? What would you prioritize for the budget? What are your frustrations with the budget? What would you do differently? What should the commissioners do differently to fund the sheriff's office? My point is, you don't have to answer every single one of these questions, right, discreetly, but we want to get a sense of your ideas about the budget. All right, and we're going to go first with Mike. 2 minutes, 90 seconds, 90 seconds.
Great question. So the budget, right off the bat, when I came in to be the sheriff, one of the first things I did, it actually was brought up before I even took office, is would you allow an audit of the sheriff's office? The answer what I was getting was the sheriff's office had never allowed an audit of the sheriff's office. So I said, absolutely, I would allow it. I got into office, it never happened. So I went into a commission meeting and said, hey, I volunteered for an audit. I would like that to start. When can we get it going? So the audit started. So we've been under audit. We're still under audit. The sheriff's office is a large entity. We are the largest piece of the budget in the county. We are still under audit. So as the auditors go through and they audit our budget, they audit our staffing plans, they're auditing every piece of the sheriff's office, and they'll bring back the inefficiencies, and we go through those and we say, hey, we can do better here, and we're making those adjustments as we go. So that was the first thing. For me, again, it's not what would I do. You can see this is what I've been doing in the sheriff's office, is we've had that budget scrutinized severely. They've looked at it very closely. As far as cuts go, cuts would be difficult because we're looking at a growing county. We're looking at things that crime trends that we have to address, whether they be drugs, whether they be sexual assault crimes, whether they be DUIs, all of these things that we deal with, we have to use the resources we have and allocate them appropriately, because you can't just focus on one thing and say, you know what, I'm going to tell you guys I'll just do this. And then, DUIs go through the roof, or drugs crimes increase, and we have all these other problems because we're not using our resources properly. So.
Next is Jeff.
One of the benefits that I have is that I've worked with the sheriff's office, and now I've worked with a couple different agencies after leaving, and been able to see the way things are done differently elsewhere. So that would be one of my focuses if the budget was cut. It would be very important that we shift money from sending, say, SWAT members or K-9 members to competitions in faraway places like Florida, Las Vegas several times a year, curb that type of spending, bring that back leave that in the county budget, and actually spend that training everyone. One of the greatest problems we have right now in law enforcement is that we have so many young officers coming into the field right now, and we're not spending a lot of money on those new officers. At Orange City, we have 120 hours a year per officer. That's 1 10-hour day per month that our officers are trained. Where at Utah County, it's the low standard that's set by post, the state, which is 40 hours annually. That's literally 4 days a year that these deputies are getting trained, or additional training. You bring somebody straight from the academy, which is something that we're doing right now. I think Utah County actually reached into post and hired 2 recruits.
Well, a budget cut, I think that would be tough. One of the challenges, though, when we're talking about where has the money been spent, what could we do different, is we don't have any transparency to know exactly where the money's been spent. I've done grammar requests myself. I finally got a response back that it's going to take at least an additional 5 or 6 weeks to get that information. And I don't know if I'll get the information then or not. They're extending the time out. That's the county attorney's office, not the sheriff's office. So we need to know where the money's been spent, first of all. There's financial audits and there's performance audits. Financial audit, which is what has been done, is did you balance your checkbook? Did you spend the money we gave you? The performance audit is going to be, did you spend the money on what you said you were going to spend it on? Did it have the desired effect? And what can we do differently going forward? As far as what I would do differently, That's difficult to answer when we don't know exactly where it's gone. But there are things that I would allocate differently. For example, we've added multiple new administrative positions over the last 3.5 years. And we've rebranded the sheriff's office with badges and logos and patches. We've upgraded office spaces. And we've done those things before we have addressed specific needs like adding personnel to our special victims unit, or adding personnel to our successful programs in the jail, or adding personnel to our successful programs in community supervision. I would have a more balanced allocation of those things.
Time. Thank you. All right. We have so many great questions, and I will continue to group them because there's themes for many of these. But this is a 30-second answer, and we're going to start with Hyrum, right? And then Mike, and then Jeff. Am I doing my pattern correctly? Okay, thank you. All right, so the question is, 30 seconds. Suppose an earthquake rocks Utah County and FEMA shows up and demands that citizens turn in their guns as they did after Katrina or Hurricane Katrina. What would you do?
Good question.
I think that it's important that we are prepared for things like that. We've got some great emergency management personnel at the Sheriff's Office. It's an area that has been expanded the last several years. And credit would have to go to Mike for that. Those are things that have really improved. Being able to respond to something that big is going to take massive effort from all of our neighbors. And as far as them infringing on our constitutional rights, we have to be willing to hold our line and literally be that line in the sand, rally the troops, whatever we need to do. We can't allow something like that.
So for me, again, it's not a campaign promise, just look at what I've done. Since I've been the sheriff, I worked with a couple of gun rights groups. We drafted a resolution that Utah County is now a Second Amendment sanctuary county. That was drafted in through the commission. Then Commissioner Ivey championed that resolution with me. We got it through. Then I went to all 29 sheriffs in this state. 3 of us wrote a resolution on the Constitution as well as the Second Amendment, pledging that every sheriff in this state would uphold the Second Amendment and all constitutional issues to protect you. All 29 of us signed it. Myself,
You obviously came in late. We're not clapping.
I think they were fanning it. So.
Oh, yes. Yes, we are fanning. We're not clapping.
In a situation like that, Hyrum's exactly right. Sheriff's Office is set up and has been set up for years. Jim Tracy worked very hard in organizing that program. He put several people in charge of that. Peter Quitner's here tonight. He's in charge of that right now. Done a fantastic job. As far as the guns go, answer is no. We have to protect those rights, keep our guns, no matter what. It's not a question of would it be good for everybody.
Thank you. All right, this next question is, it's a 90-second answer, and it's a grouping. And you'll get the spirit of what people are asking. I'm going to read about 4 of them here. And then the order is going to be Jeff, Hyrum, and Mike. Please discuss your experience supervising sworn and civilian personnel and what makes you qualified to lead. What leadership experience do you have that makes you the most qualified for the position of sheriff? Do you have the support of law enforcement, and have you received endorsements from any law enforcement entities? Explain your supervisory experience as a law enforcement officer, specifically your experience supervising other law enforcement officers. What's the highest rank you've held as a law enforcement officer? And you know what? I know we want our candidate to say just how cool they are. They're going to have a chance to say just how cool they are out in the hallway, but I'm going to take out this question of do you have the support of law enforcement and what endorsements have you received? We have seen that in your publications. We can talk to you outside about it. So we're going with explain your supervisory experience as a law enforcement officer, specifically your experience supervising other law enforcement officers. What's your highest rank? Please discuss your experience supervising sworn and civilian personnel and what makes you qualified to lead. And what leadership experience do you have that makes you the most qualified for the position? All right, we'll go in that order I announced.
Well, I hold that being in law enforcement itself is a supervisory position. We're constantly taking control of the scene. In my career, I spent 7 years as an investigator with special victims, served hundreds of search warrants, investigated probably just as many crimes against children. When you do that, you organize the entire event and you are in charge. If something bad happens, if something goes wrong with your investigation, it's you. You're in charge of that. The highest rank I've held is with the sheriff's office as Deputy 3 detective. I think there's a lot of weight being placed on a title. I think it's very important that you just recognize somebody's ability. It's not that I've gone to this academy or that academy or that I hold this degree or I've been in that position for 10 years, 15 years. I have experience on the road. I have experience with fellow officers. I know what's going on out there right now today. I think that's a huge challenge in our career. So, thanks.
90 seconds. 90 seconds.
As far as, as far as leadership experience in law enforcement, I started the Family Drug Court program in Carbon County, and I ran the Family and Felony Drug Court programs for Carbon County. We had 3, as I was leaving, a 4th deputy in that program, as well as 3 civilian employees. I authored the policies, drafted the budgets, administered everything about that program. I ran a family business with 50 employees. My education's in business administration. With Utah County, I started the UCAP program, Utah County Alternative Probation Program. And when it started out, there was just 2 of us, so there really wasn't much to supervise. We had a sergeant placed over us, but the majority of the work and supervisory work landed on us. I drafted the program model as well as the policies for that. We've made changes along the way over the last several years, and it's been a great process. It's an incredible program, recognized as an efficient, effective criminal justice model. I think that it's important that in leadership that you've got experience doing the job that you're leading. There is so much more to the sheriff's office than patrol. With the corrections and other judicial areas and other areas of the sheriff's office, we need a sheriff that knows what is happening, has worked those positions, and can really empathize with the boots on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard me talk about my experience before, so I'll recap that just real quick. But experience does matter. It really does, and especially at these levels in administration. I've done all of the things in law enforcement. I've been a patrolman, I've been a detective, I've been a special victims unit detective. I've all through that, even up through, I was a working sergeant, I was a working lieutenant. I went out with my guys. I was a captain, and I still work. Even as a chief of police, I still was on a SWAT team and working on a SWAT team and on a federal fugitive apprehension team. So my whole career, I have worked. I have been out on the front lines. And those experiences that you need in leadership and all of these facets are what make you who you are. And until you've had them, you don't understand them. And that's just the reality. I remember being a young officer going, what do those guys do? They just sit around until you're in that seat and you felt the strain, you felt the stress, you felt what happens. You don't understand what you're talking about. You need to be prepared for those things. I've worked hard to have relationships with all of the chiefs of police in this county. We work very closely together. I worked hard on relationships with all of the sheriffs in this state. I'm the first vice president in the Utah Sheriff's Association. Leadership and experience is important. When you come in as a brand new sheriff and they appoint you to a leadership position right off the bat, that experience is what they're seeing and what they are recognizing, and giving you those opportunities to serve on a statewide level and work with the legislative sessions and make sure that good laws are put in place.
Thank you. 30 seconds, and it's going to be Mike, Jeff, Hyrum. With increased truck traffic due to the inland port, what is your plan to keep our highways moving and safe?
That's a good question. The highways mainly are the highway patrol. They do those things, but we do have teams that actually work with traffic. So we have, it's not a big team, it's a small team, and again, it goes down to resources and where we're allocating things. We try to help all the cities. We try to help anybody that needs help. We're going to roll help. So if there's problems in any of the cities or on the highways, we're there to help, but we're also there with trying to put our resources everywhere they're needed. And that traffic team is very effective. They write a lot of DUIs. We're one of the leaders in DUIs, getting those people off the streets and saving lives.
You have to remember who's next.
Can't remember my name half the time. Honestly, I just have to echo what Mike said, because you're going to have to work in conjunction with the highway patrol. As a deputy, I did work on one of the special enforcement teams, the Canyon teams. So it's going to be a conjoined effort. You're just going to have to work together and put your heads together and organize a plan that's going to work for everybody.
The logistics of something like that would have to go beyond just Utah County. We had an inland port, depending on where that was located. We'd really need to have an effective plan with the state, get our memorandums of understanding in place so that we could coordinate exactly how we're going to address what those changes are going to be, so that we can study what the traffic patterns are, where we're going to expect those increases, and apply our resources appropriately.
Okay. So this is going to be Hyrum, Mike, Jeff, and this is going to be 30 seconds also. Explain what experience you have with committee work or legislative groups. This would apply to the commission, the county commission, and also to the state legislature. Okay, take it away.
I've worked a lot with different county commissions, different state boards and committees with the programs that I've started and worked in both Carbon and Utah counties. We had to get all of our funding and everything through the state Department of Health for the drug court programs. We did I authored grants for Carbon County. That's how we were able to get those resources pulled together. I presented at several commission meetings. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of state legislative experience. I've been focused on business and family, and there we go.
Next.
So as far as local committees on the commission, with the commission, I sit on a couple, our benefits committee as well as our safety committees. On a state level, I sit on several. Again, I'm the first vice president of the Sheriff's Association, which brings, you're involved in those sessions a lot. I do sit on the sentencing commission for the state. I sit on the LELC, which is the Law Enforcement Legislative Committee for the state. I also sit on a technology committee for the state, and honestly, there's more than that. I'm trying to remember. I got assigned to so many committees that it gets my number.
I'm not even gonna try to BS you. I don't sit on any committees. I've never been appointed to a committee except Dad. So that's all I have. I've never sat on a committee. I've worked in, with the county commission as part of my grants in SVU. Received investigative grants and grants from Attorney General's office, but other than that, I've never sat on a committee.
Thank you. This one is going to be 30 seconds also, and it's going to be Jeff, Hyrum, and Mike. I'm still doing great, right? I'm keeping the order? Okay, great. You better say the moderator's doing it right. So it's going to be Jeff, Hyrum, and Mike, and the question is, there's two of them, and it's going to be 1 minute. Do you feel the current deputies will follow you? What will you do to encourage all to follow your lead? And how do you, or how will you gain the trust of your deputies to have unity with your team?
Having been in law enforcement for 20 plus years, I can honestly say that we show up and we do our jobs. There's going to be some differences. I know there are people in my career that I've not liked and they don't like me. So basically the way that I would handle that situation is, if they want to talk, I'm more than happy to talk. If they have differences of opinion, we can talk about those. At the end of the day, I'd be in charge. You don't like your job, you can go. Okay. I do believe that there are a lot of deputies that are at the sheriff's office that would follow me. I think that it's not that difficult of a task. We work together, we show up, we do our job, and that's how things work.
Next.
We have an incredible group of men and women that work at the sheriff's office. It's incredibly humbling to see the skill set and that is so vast. I've had a lot of people reach out to me that work for the sheriff's office and express their support, express their concerns, express their frustrations. I think what it comes down to is just working with people and trusting them and fighting for them. And I'm going to prove exactly what type of leader I'm going to be in those first few days of elected. And I think that is going to show with my actions is how I'm going to build that trust and grow those relationships. We need to heal some wounds, and it's time that we did that.
For me, I think, again, I would just ask you, look into my history, call somebody from Pleasant Grove and ask them, how did Chief Smith treat you? Call someone from the sheriff's office, ask them, how did Sheriff Smith treat you? I've worked hard on those relationships. For me, I look at it as I said before, I'm in this with my wife. These deputies are part of our family, it's an extended family, and I treat them as such. And I value them as employees, and they see that, they know that. We don't always have to agree the same, they just have to do their job, and they know I will be fair with them. And that translates, and that means good morale. And on top of that, the FOP endorsement I received represents over 900 officers in this county. It was a unanimous endorsement that I received from them. So we have good morale at the sheriff's office, contrary to what you're hearing. We have amazing morale.
Thank you. All right, next it's going to be Mike, Jeff, Hyrum, and the question is, and this is 30 seconds, is it important to have a relationship with sheriffs from other counties and chiefs of police and throughout cities? And if so, what have you done? Have you worked specifically with chiefs and other sheriffs?
Yes, that is very important, and I have put a lot of time and effort into that. I meet with the chiefs on a weekly basis. We have a weekly Zoom call that we do, and then on a monthly basis we meet in person. And those relationships are crucial. We have to be a team. Not one entity has the resources to do it by themselves. It has to be a team effort. And for the same reasons, I work with all the sheriffs. They made me the first vice president. I work very closely with them. If you look at my endorsements out there, you'll see that. I've got call after call from sheriffs saying, what can we do to help you, Sheriff? You've been such a breath of fresh air to this association statewide. We can't lose you. So those relationships are huge.
I agree. Those relationships are huge for us and very important to build a degree of trust between agencies. I have worked with different agencies, different sheriff's departments, sheriff's offices, police departments. My 7 years as an investigator, I coordinated investigations throughout Utah County and on into parts of Salt Lake County and Juab County. I've conducted investigations across state lines in California, Arizona, Nevada.
Working with the other sheriffs and the other chiefs is incredibly important. I've got some good relationships with some of our other sheriffs in the state. I'm very close with Sheriff Wood down in Carbon County. I've had good relationships working with some of the other sheriffs as we were starting a county probation type sheriff's association that is still in the works. Working with the other chiefs is also incredibly important. Everything is kind of a jurisdictional cobweb, and there's so many lines that have to be crossed, and it's respect that has to be given. And have to work together.
This is a 30-second, and it goes Hyrum, Mike, Jeff, and the question is, would you be comfortable with a grandma request and discussion about previous interactions with police as a civilian yourself and as a Leo, and I don't know what Leo means, L-E-O. Thank you. I've just exposed my soft underbelly, haven't I? You have to remember what the order was. That's a part of this. Qualifications for the office.
I don't know, Jeff. 30 seconds.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that transparency is important. I think that the more we see things restricted, not many good things happen in secret. There's been some recent legislation that has driven some of those things even further underground as far as being able to grant or request things that involve law enforcement officers. But yes, in the short answer, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I would be okay, and the question was on a personal basis, right? So for me personally, my life's an open book. I've never received a letter of discipline in any manner in my entire career. So there's absolutely grammar request away. There's nothing in there that I'm ashamed of. I've worked my entire career to serve you ethically and to be diligent in what I do and to be the best I can be for you, and that shows. So the grammar request, I'm not aware of a legislature that actually made it worse. Actually, legislation is always working to make things better. So I'm an open book on those issues.
Yeah, I'm not scared. You can look into anything I have. I've adopted 5 children. I've had numerous BCI background checks. I've worked with the FBI. I've worked with the Attorney General's, the United States Attorney's Office, background checks with them. So whatever you want to see, ask for it. I'm not scared.
Great. This next question is a 2-minute answer, and I'll read to you the variety of questions that are in the same vein. And Yeah, and then I'll tell you a little bit more. It says, what does a healthy county sheriff, county attorney relationship look like? This goes on the back, I guess. Okay, so, yeah, and it's, what's the relationship between the county sheriff and the county attorney, healthy or unhealthy? It seems like there's problems. Are they reparable? How would you handle your position as sheriff if you don't see eye to eye with or do not get along with the county attorney? Would you still have the county attorney's office conduct training for your deputies? And then there's how will you work to improve relations with the county attorney's office? But there's also another one about working with the county commission also. So you've got 2 minutes, and you can use that 2 minutes as you would like. If you want to spend the whole 2 minutes talking about the county attorney's office, that's great. If you want to fit in the commission, that's great too. So this is about working with other offices within within the county. And did I tell you the order? It's Jeff, Hyrum, and Mike.
I think all three positions require a level of trust in between offices. I think that the commission's office, they set the sheriff's office budget based on requisitions or the budget plan set forth by sheriff's office and other departments within the county. I think that if they set that budget based on the things that you've asked for and you spend those funds appropriately or according to what your budget plan was, that helps build a trust. Likewise, at the county attorney's office, he sees everything. He sees the bad internal affairs investigations, the ones that potentially go criminal. I know Dave Levitt has expressed his concerns about at least one of those investigations. If there's not that level of trust between each office, then you're going to have a deterioration of that relationship. I think the way that you build that is like I say, you do what you say, you say what you're going to do, and do what you say. Build that level of trust. Spend the money the way it's been. You've asked for it for the purposes that you use it for. A lot of people don't understand when the commission sets the sheriff's budget by law, he gets to spend it how he chooses. And so, and that's across the board for any elected official, they get to spend their budget the way they choose.
A healthy relationship between the county attorney's office and the sheriff's office is incredibly important. I think what that relationship would look like or should look like, you have to have a healthy trust for each other, respect for each other, and you have to act as a check on each other's authority as an elected office. You have to work in parallel with that office, but it's still in an independent fashion. You're working together, but you have to maintain that separation. I believe that to heal that relationship is going to take work, and I think that everybody on every side of that situation has to be willing to look at themselves and say, what can I do to improve this? Because like most things in life, the truth and the reality often lies somewhere in the middle, right? So we need to find out what can we do better. We need to be willing to accept that there are things that we must improve. And the county attorney's office and for that matter, the commission needs to be willing to do the same thing. We can all do better. We need to be handling differences in a diplomatic fashion. We need to have the adults in the room to solve these problems. We need to make sure that when we're taking on a task that we're looking at it long-term, we have to make sure that we're addressing the performance that we desire to have with that budget increase or that action that was taken, that we're able to prove why we did what we did and that it worked, and what can we do to improve in the future. And if we're taking that approach, we're being open and transparent with our other community partners, I think we can do a lot to heal that relationship. And I think that applies to the county attorney's office as well as the commission relationship.
So I'll just address the elephant in the room, right? Because I am getting a lot of questions on why doesn't the sheriff's office get along with the county attorney's office? So the reality is the county attorney's office does not get along with any law enforcement entity in this county. I challenge you, whatever city you live in, go call your chief of police. They cannot speak politically like I can, but I can speak for them because I know what the frustration every single one of them are feeling. And we're feeling it for you because crimes are not being charged properly. Victims are being re-victimized. We're sick and tired of working these cases and seeing nothing happen to the bad guys. The frustration is real. It is real. And it is not just the sheriff's office. I challenge you to go make those calls. Find out. That's the reality. I am a team player. I am all for team. One of the biggest frustrations I've had as being the new sheriff is not being able to have that relationship, because here's the reality. You do it his way or you do it no way. I think you guys probably who were here at the debate saw that. It is a tough relationship, and if you can't see that, and if you're not willing, if you don't have the fortitude to stand up and say something and speak for the people and say, you know what, I am an administrator, our citizens are not being treated properly. If you don't have the fortitude to stand up and say that, you don't deserve to be in this position. Don't soft shoe it. Have the guts to say what the problem is. I am willing to do that. You've seen me do it. We need to get it fixed. As far as relationships with commission, the commission, we work on those relationships. I go to all the meetings with the commissioners. Again, bullets get thrown at me. The reality is, remember how the last sheriff left. There was a commission meeting, and in an open commission meeting, he resigned before his term was over, citing frustrations with the commission not working with him as a team. I walked into that mess. That's what I inherited. And there is tension there. That is nothing I brought to the office. There is tension there. We've got new blood in commissioners, and they've been great. But there is tension there, and we work through that.
I just have to say, you guys are doing so well not clapping.
It's too boring.
Save it up for the end.
It's not a debate. This isn't a debate. It's not a debate.
You're correct, it is not a debate. This is the way that the UCRB
It should be a
conducts.
debate.
Thank you. Got it. So noted.
It should be a debate.
So noted. This question is 30 seconds. And it is, I've got a couple of cards to read here, and the order is Mike, Jeff, Hyrum. Have you ever been terminated from a law enforcement agency or resigned in lieu of termination? If so, why? And then tell us why you left your last two positions in law enforcement.
Is that it?
That's it.
No, I have not. I've never been terminated from any job, not even just law enforcement, from any job. The reason I left my last two, I'd have to think back to the one before Pleasant Grove and what I was doing. That's a long time ago. I worked there 24 years. I think I was actually working, may have been when I went on my LDS mission. I quit to go on a mission. So Pleasant Grove, you guys know why I left Pleasant Grove. I love Pleasant Grove. It was, I love that city, this city. I love the people I worked with. And it was hard for me to leave that position. But I felt deep inside my heart that there was something I needed to do.
Was it 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
Yeah, I actually was forced to resign from. I was actually forced to resign from the sheriff's office when Mike Smith took office. I can give you plenty of details, that I don't have time right now to go into those details because of the time constraints. But I have documentation. I have the whole works. But last two places I left was the sheriff's office. I also worked for UVU for a year, waiting for a position to open up at Orem City. And once one opened up, I got a job there right away.
I worked for Carbon County before I came to Utah County. The reason I left Carbon County is I caught two of my coworkers breaking the law. I turned them in. It made my life a nightmare working for that agency. I dug my heels in and I went through that investigation, ultimately left and took a job with Utah County. At the end of that investigation, both officers lost their job. One of them went to jail, and the sheriff himself was arrested on misappropriation of public funds down in Carbon County. That's why I left Carbon County. I'm not afraid to stand up for when it needs to happen.
Great, thank you. We'll give you a minute on this one. And this is going to be, am I right? No, I'm wrong. It's going to be Hyrum, you're first. That's correct, right? Sure. And then Mike, you're number 2. I told you, this is the toughest part of the job. All right, and then Mike, you're number 2, and Jeff, you're number 3. And you've got a minute on this. It's what do you think the number 1 job of the county sheriff should be? And I'll allow you to elaborate if you'd like to, what number 2 should be. In 60 seconds.
Number 1 job and responsibility for an elected sheriff is to be a constitutional guardian. It's the sacred responsibility of that office. It's easy to talk about the First and Second Amendment in Utah County, where everybody loves God and guns. It's a little less comfortable, especially for law enforcement, to talk about things like the 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendment, with search and seizure, self-incrimination, due process, equal protection under the law. Because when there's an issue there, unfortunately, our government and sometimes our law enforcement is involved with that issue. We need to be willing to tackle those things head on. We address that with sufficient training up front. The constitutional training and constitutional case law training and legal training in general that you receive at the police academy is woefully inadequate, and you're expected to go be an expert in the industry. I would implement extensive upfront and ongoing constitutional law and case law training, and I've had some not-for-profit organizations reach out and willing to provide that training to the sheriff's office for free.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
The reality is the sheriff is the only elected law enforcement office in the nation. It's a pretty awesome responsibility. There are some parts of the nation where they've legislated it out and they're now appointed or they got away with it. It is an important piece to have in your law enforcement because I work for you. I work for the people and we stand for the people. So protecting those constitutional rights is paramount. Again, for me, it's not campaign promises. Look at what I've done. Look at during the mandate, the stance I took on the mandate. In fact, in 2020, the Sheriff's Association gave me the Lawman of the Year award for leading out as the sheriff in the state on protecting people's freedoms during mass mandates and mass gathering mandates. So protecting that Constitution is huge for me. And second, I'm going to tell you, law and order. We have to keep our communities safe. We have to keep Utah County an amazing place to live. So it is paramount that we're out there enforcing the laws and making sure that the bad guys are off the streets and that our good citizens can live and raise a family and enjoy this beautiful county that we all live in.
Coming last, I have to just echo what both of them said. Constitutionality is immensely important. It's the most important thing for the sheriff's office, the sheriff's position, to uphold and guarantee for each individual citizen. That doesn't matter, or that doesn't change if it's a suspect who's being arrested or somebody that's trying to stand for the First Amendment and walking around with a camera in public buildings, being annoying. That's the most paramount part of our job as a sheriff. I don't know that I can add much to it, other than as a police officer, as a deputy, that's exactly what we enforced. That's exactly what our careers meant to us. If they didn't, your career was short-lived.
All right, this next question is for 2 minutes, and the order is Jeff, Hyrum, Mike. And bear with me while I get through this. Because I've got several cards, and I'm just trying to make certain that we address each of the issues in the card. There have been allegations, or there has been a claim that in the past, deputies were beating a helpless man in handcuffs. What is your analysis of that claim? And this is 2 minutes. And then the question is, who should what conglomeration of people or groups should investigate things such as that and other incidents that might happen like that? So who has the power to, or who should investigate? And should there perhaps be citizens on a committee that would do that investigation? Is that enough to answer?
As mud. Clear as mud.
Okay. Great.
Sorry. They get to stand without a mic in their face. That was no play on. If there are officers that are doing that, it's a constitutional issue. It's potentially a violation of that individual's civil rights. First and foremost, the officers, deputies at that scene situation should do their utmost to stop that action. Afterward, I'm going to address the civilians first, because otherwise I'm going to forget about it. It's easy for, as a civilian, to play armchair quarterback with some of the things that we see on television or on YouTube, what have you. I think if a civilian is involved in that, they actually need to be trained in that area. They need to actually see those situations and know exactly what can and sometimes does happen during those police-involved situations. I know in Utah County we have an officer-involved protocol team that investigates it. They're part of white-collar crimes or the county attorney's office. I know that each agency does their own internal investigation, which is very important as well. And I know that they usually ask at least one other law enforcement officer or office department to do their, a third parallel investigation. They're very important. I think the need to have those public is very important, but after the fact. I don't think during the investigation it's very helpful to the investigation, the people involved, or even citizens. I know we want to be involved, but it's really problematic if that situation happens.
The allegation about that specific case, I'm assuming you're all talking about what David Levitt brought up at the last debate. There's a lot of questions surrounding what happened that day. There is an article on the Salt Lake Tribune and video attached to that article, as well as quotes from the different agencies involved in that investigation, and I would encourage all of you to read it. As far as my analysis on it, a lot of things look really bad on camera. There's only one angle, and it does look bad. And as far as that claim goes about the person being in handcuffs, That's not true, and on the video it shows that he's not in handcuffs. But I think that when we look at a situation like this, there's three things that we need to consider. Were there a policy violation? Was there a legal violation? And do we need to review perhaps either something with the policy or the law? According to the article, there were policy violations found by multiple agencies, including our own. Again, that's just according to the article. I think we'd have to see a ground request to get those details, but I don't know if we can get that. As far as the criminal charges, all of the agencies found that there were no criminal charges. They cited frustrations and issues with officers not being willing to cooperate with that investigation, and I think that's something that has to be addressed. As far as oversight and review, I think having oversight is a good thing. We have to have review. Having untrained people in a position like that is dangerous because it's going to affect the way that police officers are able to do their job. I think that we need to find some professionals, whether they're retired legal professionals or people that have some sort of history and background and are willing to go through the intensive training to be able to be a part of a committee like that. But transparency is incredibly important. We have to do better.
So let me start with the Citizens Use of Force Review Board. Since I've been the sheriff, we do have a Use of Force Review Board, and I've actually created a hybrid board. So we do bring citizens on. They sit with deputies who are part of that board, with 2 citizens that come on to be part of the board as well. So every use of force goes through that review board. So that's something that we've started up. To address the incident that David Levitt's bringing up, I'll just tell you right now, I'm very disappointed in him. He's done some dirty things, but this is dirty, and it's frustrating because in my career, one of the things I've also been is an internal affairs investigator. I was an internal affairs investigator for a long time, longer than I wanted to. I've had to discipline a lot of officers. I had to fire a lot of officers. I actually am I'm certified as a certified litigator in internal affairs. So when I see an internal affairs case, the first thing that I do is I do not jump to conclusions. I wait till all the facts and the evidence are in. And that's how every case should be treated. This case in particular was not treated that way. Right from the get-go, someone jumped to a conclusion and said, Sheriff, you're going to do this, 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 and you're going to do it immediately. And I said, no, there's something called due process, and due process is going to happen. So in the end, that case was investigated by our internal affairs. It was investigated by an independent agency, a parallel investigation. It was investigated by Post, who holds the certifications for all law enforcement officers. If they pull your certification, you cannot work as a law enforcement officer anywhere in this state. It was investigated by the FBI. David Levitt sent the case down to Iron County to have the deputies charged criminally. All 5 of those entities exonerated those officers of use of force allegations. The only one that hasn't is the storyteller, David Levitt, that apparently is looking to get a job on CNN. I don't know. I've worked too long in my career. I do not allow officers to work for me that have violated the trust with the community and have done things that are irreparable. They are gone. I don't want them as part of my team. Things happen. If we can fix it, we'll fix it. But if they go too far, they can't. But when someone's exonerated by 5 entities...
Time.
Can we have a rebuttal on that?
No. You can, because I just want to be clear, all 3 of you are staying after this meeting, correct? Until 1 a.m. if you need to, correct? So these, yeah, you may have to ask somebody permission. So it's and my impression of each of these people that I've never met is that they would love to talk to you. So if you've got questions that you feel weren't answered or they didn't answer in the way you thought or wasn't clear or whatever, then I would encourage you to stay after and talk with them directly. And you'll be able to ask your question in front of a large group of people that are gathered around them. So this next question is 30 seconds, and it is going to be Hyrum, Mike, and Jeff. What kind of training should be continued or implemented in the sheriff's office?
Shouldn't it be Mike first? Because he has it.
He's never been first.
I'm sorry, did I say, and it should be, so did I say Mike, Jeff? I should have said Mike, Jeff, and Hyrum.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you for keeping me honest.
So training, we've done a lot of training and internal training, some things have been said about
30
that.
seconds.
So I just want to, I actually wrote these down because the things that we do internally, I'll just go through this list. We teach firearms, defensive tactics, arrest control, mindfulness, Harbinger Institute that teaches against implicit biases, instructor development, emergency vehicle operations. We do the Virtua simulator, CPR. We have an annual training every year. This year we did first aid, drug identification, ethics, traffic stops, legal updates, domestic violence, nutrition and fitness, use of force, lethal, less lethal certifications. The list goes on and on.
Jeff. Right?
I think all those programs that Mike mentioned are very valuable. The difference is that at the sheriff's office it's 40 hours annually. They're not, when he says they have those trainings, they're available. That doesn't mean everybody goes to those. Now they have the Harbinger program that they just signed an $80,000 contract with Harbinger to offer that program. That program is a great program. I think that should continue to be implemented there at Sheriff's Office. The problem is the expense that it's costing. There's a way to narrow that.
Training is huge. The list that Mike just went through, if we were able to get everybody through all of the training that we need to do, it would probably take 160 hours or 180, 200 hours a year. And that's going to come back to how are we allocating our resources? How do you want us allocating our resources? We have to do more with training. A big training issue for me is we need to do more constitutional law, constitutional case law training so that we can make every deputy feel empowered to be a constitutional guardian for you.
Thank you. This is 1 minute. And it's Jeff, Hyrum, Mike.
I think it should be.
Is that right? Like I told you. I pay a lot of money to do this and I'm falling down on the job. What's the order it should be?
I think it should be Hyrum, Mike, Jeff.
Okay. Hyrum, Mike, Jeff. Got it. Okay. Hyrum, Mike, Jeff. Yes. And this is 1 minute. The question on the card is, how would you prioritize actively looking for sexual crimes and perhaps creating a task force?
SVU crimes is something that absolutely has to be prioritized. It's the most sensitive area of law enforcement investigations. We have 15 personnel assigned in different areas of the Sheriff's Office assigned to proactive roles through our drug task force and set team, canyon team, traffic team. They're focusing on drug, alcohol, and traffic offenses. We don't have anybody assigned in that same role to support our SVU unit. And that's something that I think we need to change immediately. We've been trying to add positions into SVU for many years. I would take those traffic team resources on day one. They're doing a job that is the responsibility of highway patrol for the most part. And I would shift those over to our SVU units so we could have a proactive, ongoing SVU task force to really take the fight to these predators. We can't just wait for the victims to come to us. We're relying on overtime and donations to do proactive operations right now. We can do better.
We actually do have a proactive SVU team. We have a sergeant and 3 detectives. I've asked for a new one every year. We just got a new detective in our budget this year that we're adding to the SVU. We have a task force. We are the leader of the task force in the county, so all the other cities can contribute to that task force. We're doing proactive things all the time. We have RAD. We have things that even before, so your rape aggression defense training that we put over 200 people through every year. They were teaching them even before this how to avoid these situations. This year alone, since I've been sheriff, we've done 3 human trafficking operations, 7 child trafficking operations with ICAC. We do monthly chatting operations, and we're constantly doing proactive online child pornography investigations. We just rescued 3 people who were being human trafficked in Lehi, Utah. One came from Ecuador, and we just rescued them a month ago. We arrested 21 people. We're constantly doing these. We prioritize, but you also have to, again, look at the rest of the county and use your resources to take care of other problems in the county, like drugs, like alcohol, like everything else that we're dealing with. So we can always use more. I'm always asking for more. This is something I have made a priority in my career.
I agree with both candidates that the ICAC program that Mike talked about is actually the program that I started in 2007. I brought here from National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in Alexandria, Virginia. Got us started here as part of Utah County's task force, the sex crimes task force. As sheriff, I would immediately allocate a body to those positions. The bodies are there, the money's paying that body. That body can be moved over there tomorrow. We put an emphasis on our SET team, we put an emphasis on our property crimes, emphasize children and their protection. It's vital to our community, it's vital to our growth, it's vital to the Utah County that we all want it to be. Sex Crimes Task Force is immensely important.
Great, this next question is a 2-minute answer. We've touched on it a little bit, it's about trust. And so, what are you going to do, and what's your experience been in the past with engendering trust with other entities, such as the commission, the county attorney's office, number 2 with officers, and number 3 with citizens of the county? And we're going to go Jeff, Hyrum, Mike.
How long? 2
minutes. You can wax eloquent.
There's nothing eloquent about my waxing, and I should have apologized before that you actually have to listen to me speak, because I'm not an orator. I spent 7 years working special victims. In that time, I coordinated countless cases, warrants, arrests throughout the county and various parts of the state. In doing that, I coordinated efforts with the United States Attorney's Office, with the FBI, with the Attorney General of the state, and officers throughout Utah County. That ICAC program that we were talking about before is now being used throughout the county because what we were able to do while I was in SVU. During that time, we coordinated almost $500,000 in grant money to that program so that we could implement it throughout the county. So I've had countless years of time spent with other agencies, other officers, attorneys. Never really dealt with the county commissioner's office, but you build relationships, you build resources through those groups. You learn to trust each other, you learn to trust each other's investigations and the information that they provide you. And that's because you reciprocate what you're getting and vice versa. And so the trust is something that in our line of work should actually just come naturally, but unfortunately it doesn't.
I think trust comes down to having done what you said that you would do and really following through with your commitments. I've worked a lot with commissions at 2 different agencies now. I've worked with county attorneys' offices, with other groups. In Carbon County, we pulled together a big team to be able to tackle a really challenging problem with recidivism with substance abuse offenders. What we did is we had prosecutors, defense attorneys, we had people from the state probation, the sheriff's office, and the judge all work together as a team where we could really focus on what needed to change and address answering the why of a problem. As far as building trust with officers, I think just being there for them, having their back, responding to help your fellow brothers and sisters, and you really have to be willing to make some serious sacrifices of yourself. There's a brotherhood in law enforcement that's incredibly powerful, incredibly important, but we have to make sure that brotherhood is not more powerful than our duties to the people that we're serving. Building trust with the public. I recently had somebody reach out to me who I had arrested multiple times, and they told me, they said, you always held me accountable, but you were always willing to listen, you always showed compassion, and thanked me for all of the times that I had put them into jail. Experiences like that are incredible. It's the kind of thing that keeps you going. I've talked more people into handcuffs and I've fought into handcuffs, and that's something that I'm proud of. And I'd love to have the opportunity to serve Utah County as your sheriff.
Trust is huge. It's earned every day, and you can lose it any day. And we saw that in law enforcement. We saw it in 2020 when an incident that occurred in a state far away from here affected law enforcement across the entire nation. One officer blew trust for the entire nation, and we suffer from that. So we work on repairing those relationships with our community. Since I've been the sheriff, we've worked hard on those things. Some of the things that we put in place, for instance, are Teachers Academy. We reached out to teachers to work with them and help them to be able to keep our kids safe in their schools. We started the Honorary Colonel Program, which is a group of business leaders from throughout the community that work with us very closely to help us improve our relationships and to help us market the sheriff's office in different ways. We've worked hard on social media campaigns to try to connect with our citizens. I've increased our volunteer programs. We have our volunteers in police services. We've increased those programs to have more citizens being part of our team, because that's what it's all about, is you guys being part of our team. So we have volunteers that come out and they'll ride around in cars that say volunteer on the side. We've increased our patrols up in American Fort Canyon to try to keep that safer for people to recreate in other areas around the county. So trust is huge. With our federal partners, I know that's like, with some people, that's the bad word in the room. Well, I'll tell you what, in the Sheriff's Association every quarter, we invite those partners to our meetings, so we're up front with them. Instead of on the backside of arguing with them, we're having these conversations up front, saying, if you're going to do this in our county, if you're going to do that in our county, you come to us and talk to us, and we will work through these issues. So we're building those relationships of trust with all of our partners in everything we do. And I'll tell you what, those federal partners are great when you do that with them. And they do come to us and say, hey, Sheriff, I'm doing something in your county. I want you to be aware of it. And we talk through those things. So I have worked hard on that. I have a whole career of, again, look into me, a whole career of experience in doing these things.
All right, we have gone past 8:30, and now the next section is going to take about 10 minutes, so that'll take us almost right up to 9 o'clock, and then we'll have lots of time to spend with these gentlemen outside. So this is your final pitch. You'll have 3 minutes. Take notes here, because I've got some cards that I want to aggregate, and you can address. I may even give you 4 minutes each, and you'll get extra points if you take less. Just the whole audience they'll think more positively of you. So, first, there's what I mentioned at the very beginning. Are there any statements about your campaign that you feel are misleading that you would like to address? Okay? And by the way, I'm going to give you about a minute or 90 seconds to contemplate your answers to these so you can organize your thoughts, and we'll talk amongst ourselves for just a minute or so. I have another one here. It says, during the campaign, have you misled or been untruthful in your responses or publications? Then another section is about the Constitution. We're all concerned about the Constitution and what you will do to uphold the Constitution and what you'll be swearing to do. We're concerned about your families. We're concerned about your spouses and your kids and how you manage time. We'd like to see your children not in jail. That's, I think, jail.
Someone wrote that.
And then I think that these, if you choose to address these, it's fine, but if I were you, I'd address them out in the hallway. There's some questions about morals and integrity and are you true and honest to your wife and all those kinds of things. I am a former bishop in the local church, and I think that those are more private questions and would be more appropriate for one-on-one. If you want to address them here, that's fine. Want to know about if you're an honest person, so we'd like to hear you at least say that. And then there's some questions that I would encourage you, if you've got these questions, that you ask the candidates face-to-face outside and be able to have a dialogue with them. Some about expenses and what are there misappropriated expenses from time to time, and how are those things managed by you. And then there's some other questions about who you support for other races in this election. And again, I think that those are great questions and appropriate for a one-on-one face-to-face. So, is that enough to take on for 3 to 4 minutes? Great, we'll give you a minute. So go ahead and talk amongst yourselves.
I don't, well, sorry, you were asking, rebuttal answered, validation. You shut down.
Obviously, people want to know, but what if people ask you questions and then they determine your honesty based off of your actions? And compare what you said.
So the question is, yeah, it's rebuttal. Not that. That's what the debate is. It's not just to shut up and talk privately with people. Sorry, guys. Such a question and answer. It's not rebuttal. It's not, no, you can't make any allegations. That's not. Seriously.
That's crazy.
I mean, I'm a woman. Well, yeah, but of course the moderator calls that out, but on a little bit.
All right, let's come back together. There is, doTERRA provided this facility for us last week and this week, and there is a big thank you card that's floating around outside, so if you could please be sure, let's get as many signatures on that as possible to thank them. Probably the best way you can thank them is to become a distributor. You will smell great, that's all. And people in the grocery stores will know that you're with doTERRA. So I would love to, I'm getting older, so I get a little more emotional, sorry. But I'd love to thank Craig for, we can give applause. And he is tireless in the efforts that he makes and in the volunteering that he does year after year for our party. And it's really wonderful, so thank you, Craig. Really appreciate it. All right, I'm really ready to get even more emotional for the next 12 minutes. And the order is going to be Mike number 1, Jeff number 2, and Hyrum number 3. I look to my judge here. Excellent. Okay, I got a thumbs up. All right, so we're going to take 4 minutes each, and this is your opportunity for your last pitch before you go out into the hallway.
And to address these questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So
And you can say anything else you want.
I'll try to address a few of them. Will you give me a 1 minute? Can you do that? Yeah. Yep. I wanted to start with, first off, a statement that stuck with me for a long time. I learned this a long time actually when I was going through internal affairs classes, is the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And it's so true. I've seen that so many times in my career, so many times that you try to get somebody to, you identify bad behavior and try to work with them on it, and sometimes they can fix it, but ultimately, unfortunately, people tend to go back to their bad behaviors. And so I give you that because it goes with honesty, with integrity, with everything. That starts the day you start your career, and you need to be working on that the entire time. If you're going to run for a political position and you want to be a dirty politician, then go be a dirty politician. But this is a law enforcement position, and your integrity is all you have, and you need to stick to that integrity. A good friend of mine sent me this quote. It says, "In my work, you get used to criticisms. Of course you do, because there's a lot of people trying to get you down. But I always cheer up immensely if one in particular is particularly wounding, because I think, well, if they attack one personally, it means they have not a single political argument left. That is why my father always taught me, never worry about anyone who attacks you personally. It means their arguments carry no weight, and they know it." And that's from Margaret Thatcher. And it is so true. The first time I ran, I endured this. This time I'm enduring these type of attacks, and it's needless, it's useless, and it's just, we're better than that in Utah County. We're better than that. I hold people accountable for what they do, and then sometimes they run against you for sheriff. We're better than that.
Oh my God.
So that's all I'm going to say about, I have an opportunity for a rebuttal, and that's as far as I'm going to go with it, because I don't think it's proper to do those things. The mislead or been untruthful in publications, absolutely not. I have absolutely not been. Every publication I've put out there, I would challenge it. There are some publications I've seen that they need to be challenged, not mine. They're truthful. I have worked hard in this career to earn this position. I have put in the time, I've put in the effort, I've been through the trainings, I've had the positions, I've earned these positions along the way. I'm not looking to jump from the mailroom to any CEO position. I have earned it along the way, and I'm prepared, and you've seen me. It goes back to that predictor. You've seen what I've done. You've seen me stand for your Constitution. You have the Constitution question there. You've seen me stand for it. You've seen me stand for your freedom on mandates. I took the bullets from the press. I stood strong on that. I didn't waver. I was there for you, whether it was the mass gatherings, the mandates, the vaccines. I stood for people's freedoms. We were not going to have that in Utah County. Family is everything to me, and I've addressed that. Family is something that,
1 minute.
Without my family, I wouldn't be here. Without my family, I would not do this job if they were not behind me. It's too hard of a job to try to do on your own, to not have your family supporting you. You will never make it. They mean the world to me. And the sheriff's office and you as my extended team mean the world to me, and that's why I do it. That is my why. You are my why, my family's my why, this county's my why. I love this place. I want to keep it the amazing place that it is. I love you guys. I love what you're doing for this delegate system, the work you're putting in. You are amazing. I've seen people with typed notes that are amazing, just amazing. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's an honor to be your sheriff, and I would be absolutely honored to serve you again. Thank you.
We will be applauding at the end, everybody. So we'll be applause for now, and Jeff. And I'll give you 1 minute also, if you'd like.
Thank you, yes. As far as any misleading statements toward me in my campaign, I don't read, I don't do Facebook. I don't have a web page. I'm not a politician. So if something's been said or is being said out there, I'm not aware of it. So as far as that question goes, during this during the events that we've attended, there are some things that I've had to correct because I've received additional information that corrected. And when that's happened, I've actually gone out and done that correcting. So that's been something that is very important to me. Keep up the honesty, integrity of this process. Mike's mentioned how sometimes you discipline somebody and then they run for sheriff. Unfortunately, it doesn't work the other way when you try to discipline somebody that is your supervisor, or at least call into question things that they've done. It tends to go against you. So that's actually why I'm running for sheriff, to correct those inconsistencies. Constitutionality, I've protected constitutionality my entire career. I've not violated anybody's civil rights. I stand up and I protect the weak, the innocent, and the downtrodden. I'm their voice, I'm their strength. I've stood in the way of those who want to do others harm. You're not taking my guns. Because you're not taking my guns, I'm not going to allow anybody to take your guns. I know that across the county, there are chiefs throughout the county that feel the same way. So it's not going to be that difficult to enforce the constitutional nature of keeping and bearing arms. No mask mandates, no vaccination mandates. Same situation. I know there are chiefs across the county that feel the same way, that will join with either of us who are the sheriff, because they believe in those rights and that they should be protected. I do my very best to be honest in everything I do. I run a family business. It's very successful. I just joined with a partner out of St. George. He's a man of integrity. He's been in business since 2008. He would not have joined if he didn't see that I handled my business honestly and with integrity there. My family is absolutely the most important thing in my world.
1 minute.
That's why I'm running. I've seen some things lately that if my child were involved with that, whether it be my son-in-law, my granddaughter, or my children, I would not want them to be treated the way that I've seen individuals treated. My family's everything. I'm not quite sure what you asked about expenses, but how I handle my expenses, the way I spend my money is every dollar counts, and I put the change in the change jar because I know next week I might need that for a gallon of milk. And that's the way I think our budget should be spent in county government, is every dollar counts, and anything in reserve should be placed in a either the same spot allotted for or appropriated to a more important spot.
Hyrum. And I'll give you 1 minute.
I've never made any misleading statements. I know that there's always disagreements between any two opposing parties. That's the reality of life. I would never intentionally mislead anybody on anything. Everything that I have said, I believe in passionately about. My platform and my beliefs are an extension of who I am. As far as things about our Constitution. We've seen some crazy stuff these last few years. And I think that we've seen those encroachments growing, and I think we're going to see them again in the future. The federal government likes to reach for power, and they don't like to give it up when they've got it, and they've got a taste for it now. With the mask mandates and the mass gathering mandates, I didn't realize that we had situations right here in Utah County where people were either removed from meetings or not allowed to go into meetings, whether that's school boards or city councils. I wasn't aware of those things until I started this process. I applaud Mike's efforts with the letters and statements that he put out, that he's not going to enforce those mandates. But I've had people reach out to me and say, I got kicked out of a school board meeting, or they wouldn't let me in. And when I contacted my sheriff, I was told there's nothing more I can do. There's always something more that we can do. I think it's important that we take that constitutional guardianship role very seriously. We need to be an advocate, an ally, and a voice for you guys. We need to make sure that we're taking that diplomatic approach, and we're using our position to be able to reach out to those other community leaders to try and solve some of these problems, educate them on some of the constitutional restrictions that need to be observed. Working with our citizens' rights groups and our parents' rights groups, making sure that they're educated and involved with what they can and can't do. There's some very passionate subjects that are being debated. There's some very passionate people involved with those things. And we need to make sure that people aren't getting in their own way of their cause, that they're not going to cross that line that causes that disruption, and that becomes the focus of the peaceful assembly rather than what they were there for. I think that we need to expand our reach with those things. I'd love to see something like a county ordinance put in place that provides some protection for constitutional overreach. That would provide an enforcement method for the sheriff's office, where if there's an incident that happens like that, a citation can be issued and they can go answer to our county justice court judge why they did what they did. I think that how we allocate our time, my family is incredibly important to me. I have a big family. I have 6 kids. Time is our most valuable resource, and it's difficult. I was working full-time, going to school full-time, remodeling a house, and trying to be dad. These things are hard to juggle. Fortunately, I'm done with school now, and the house is just about done. And the time that we have with our families is precious, and we need to make sure that we're, as elected officials, protecting your rights and your ability to raise your family the way that you see fit. As far as trust and morality, I love my wife deeply, and I'm completely faithful to my wife. I think that it's important that we teach our children those same principles. And for our deputies here, you're not mailroom workers, and I respect you more than that.
Thank you. Would you gentlemen stand and stand for the table, please? Nobody moves except you 3 on your way out. You are about to be accosted. Stay put. Stay put.
The organization Richard and I put together. tremendous respect for it. That's one of the qualities, and there's small reasons that Tim Como and Barbara in Cedar Hill, we were on a 75-member SWAT team of federal agents that came and dispossessed them of the gun. And for months and months, weeks and weeks leading up to that event, Tim and Barbara were very upfront with Mike. Said, Mike, please tell us that if anyone federal agents so Mike says, I stand up for the Constitution, I stand up for the little people all the time. I just know that it wasn't always easy. So now, those are the only two concerns. Hyrum seems to be a record for
I used your instructions to learn how to do count.
Hope you're not undercover, because that mustache is a good giveaway.
Crystal clear.
What do you think?
Maybe it's not so clear to everybody, but it's clear to me. Mike had a Citizens Academy going on in Pleasant Grove.
Yeah, I put some notes in there.
Oh,
Really good about it. Cool.
It's great.
Yeah.
We really got more empathy as to what the officers go through.
Okay.
We were put in situations all padded up.
Wow.
With 45s with paint bullets.
Okay.
To go into situations. It's not.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the police officers were the bad guys in essence.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, it was.
You got to shoot some bullets at it? That's awesome.
Hey, thank you for recording all the debates.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. There's a couple I couldn't make it to, so thank you very much. I do appreciate it. My name's Dennis. Nice to meet you. Likewise. It gave me an opportunity to go back and watch them, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I was a precinct sheriff in Washington, and I got alerted on where mistakes were there.
That's a good call. Yeah.
What's the web address? Where do I?
It's all based on
Facebook and YouTube, yeah.
Okay. And what do I put in it?
Put in on which one do you use better?
YouTube.
Okay, just life is driving, like driving a car. All one word.
I thought you said driving. Okay, life is driving.
Life is driving, all one word. YouTube.com/driving.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know it's hard to say.
Because I looked at driving and it didn't come up.
Yeah, I should have been more clear. I was a little nervous up there. I was criminally underdressed.
Life is right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I work in the car industry. I've been working in the car industry for over 20 years, so I love to drive. Where is this guy? Billy!
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Did you film the whole thing?
I did. I filmed them all. I filmed you too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you film my good side?
I tried. I tried.
Good.
A lot of them. So, they're new fit. And so I think that's the great
Hey, Jeff.
How are you?
Good job. Yeah, I had a question from somebody that was watching the live stream. They said, how do you ensure transparency for your agency and how do you manage allegations of officer misconduct?
Straightforward. There's a process that we have to go through as in law enforcement. And so what seems like that it's not transparency is actually the investigative phase. But once that investigation is finished, I believe full transparency. Now, I'm not talking about defaming the officer or pointing out the things that are in a bad light. What I'm referring to is, let's say for instance, the biggest topic right now is the civil rights violation. There are a lot of those things that, and I can't remember her name, but she's a reporter for the Daily Herald, I think. Maybe it's a Tribune. Peyton is her first name. They stymied her entire report under the guise that it's still under investigation, I think that it needs to come to light what happened. If I'm an administrator and I choose to discipline somebody, that should be part of the public information. Because I've disciplined her, and that should be out there. I think that gives a lot of confidence back in law enforcement. So right now, I mean, everybody thinks we're hiding it, and I think that's a downfall. So, to answer your question, you have to be honest and transparent, right? You have to bring all that information out. I work for you. Every officer out there works for each individual. So, as part of that, we're responsible for answering to you. Maybe not individually every time, but that makes some sense. So I think the public there has a right to. If you got a bad officer, that officer should be or deputy in this case.
Did you support for county attorney?
I'm leaning toward Adams. There's been some recent stuff come out about that I've gained information on between Jeff Gray and Mike Smith. No. So not a fight, but they've actually, by Spencer Cox, the governor, they're actually appointed to a committee to seek more privacy for agencies, internal affairs investigations. So they're a member of a 12-panel group that voted to keep all internal affairs investigations undiscovered. Meaning you can't grandma request them, you can't discover them in court. And so yeah, they both sit on that committee. That worries me about Jeff Gray. Because Jeff Gray is he has an impeccable history. He's got a great education. He's obviously top dog in some of his appeals with the Supreme Court. That bothers me. I mean, in an age right now where we're trying to be more transparent and trying to bring about a change for law enforcement so that we're not having to look around every corner when we're on a regular day. We can park our police cars on the street. We're seeking for that, and all of a sudden we're voting for these bills. And it's my understanding that it passes in June. So it doesn't pass, it takes effect in June. I think it's but it's transparency. It stymies transparency, and I don't like this. So thank you. All right, I appreciate it.
There's Hyrum right there.
And so what I heard from you is, and I
Hyrum. How you doing?
Hey, Adam, how are you?
Good. Great job up there.
Thank you.
That's
An incredibly uncomfortable situation.
I'll bet. I got a question from a viewer.
Sure.
And the question is, how do you ensure transparency in your agency, and how will you manage allegations of officer misconduct?
So, transparency is a huge thing for me. I don't think that government should be restricting transparency anywhere. I'll have to look up the House bill that I referenced earlier about limited grammar requests. If I guess right now, I would just be guessing. And those relate specifically to internal affairs investigations. There's an issue there. As far as how do we address transparency there, I think we have to have some sort of hybrid internal, external oversight review for use of force. Mike referenced that apparently we have one now. That was used when I didn't know the government. It's always been internal. The article that's being talked about right now, the video with the excessive use of force, it's spelled out that the internal use of force review board is, I believe it was deputy, 2 sergeants, and lieutenant, or something to that effect. And so if that is changed, that's good. We have to have oversight. And so as far as how I would approach that, there are some really good models with some of our neighboring agencies who have made positive change there. Unfortunately, that has been after very extensive civil litigation that cost those jurisdictions a lot of money. I would like to see us get ahead of that curve and avoid some of that problems.
Cool. Who are you rooting for county attorney?
I have been able to speak with all three. I've known Adam for the last about 9 years. We've been in the county about the same amount of time. I've worked with David Love for the last almost 4 years. Full transparency, I've only had one 15-minute conversation with you. All three of them said things that I liked. All three of them said things that I didn't. I was talking to somebody earlier, and they said if we could just take the pieces of each one and make this super candidate, that would be amazing. And I agree. But as far as officially supporting any one person, I'm not for any of the races. Because what it comes down to is I am able and willing to work with whoever you guys see. And that's something incredibly important to me. And
how about the commissioner? Any opinion?
Same thing there. There's things I like and dislike about each of them. I think that people really need to do some research and Google things and look into things. And if something causes a question in your mind, I think they should pursue it.
That's cool. Thanks for stepping up. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam.
So if I ask
Did you record the debate?
Yes.
Is it going to be out on YouTube?
It's out. It's live right now on there.
It's live right now.
Yeah.
I can find it later.
Yeah, just search Utah County Sheriff and you'll find it.
Did you happen to do the second commissioner debate?
Yes.
I haven't been able to find that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's on my YouTube as well. It's on my Facebook and YouTube.
And what's your Facebook?
It's
How do I find it?
go to facebook.com/Adam, the number 4, Utah.
Okay. I put it out on so that my neighbors, they will try and
cool.
so I've been trying to get them to say, hey, look who's running.
I'm the precinct chair down in Payson, and pretty much nobody can make it to any of these events. So yeah, so I'm just trying to, and I work up here in Orem, so I'm just trying to make sure everybody gets a fair shake, gets all the info. So yeah.
I think I've seen your other videos.
Yeah.
Adam Force and Blur.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being involved.
Thank you, Adam.
Hey, thank you. Hey, how you doing? Good. I gotta go talk to the man over here.
Hey, thanks for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry.
I haven't, and I'll tell you why. I've actually been to training one-on-one. Sharing back, right? So if you talk to one of the we met a couple of my I'm good with everything. Part for me is so you're using taxpayer dollars to make sure you say, I said, I swear, no, that's my point. The sheriff's in I agree with you. In fact, one of them, Hyrum Cox, presidency of the sheriff's bringing that to our He's one of the most constitutional. Yeah, it's about like that. Thank you. I have no idea. I can see statistics on stuff and where they go, where they go, websites, stuff like that. She's a lesson. I can't make this detail. Yeah. I know, right? Well, thank you so much. I was a delegate 4 years ago when you got elected. I remember how it was. I was going for you. Yeah, got it. It's a private company. The video is I've been in training.
Sheriff, yes, sir. I have a question for you. Someone on my live stream asked this question. How do you ensure transparency in your agency, and how do you manage allegations of officer misconduct?
So the transparency just depends. Some of the things that we've done, and it goes to the one we talked about tonight, right? When I came in, the officers didn't have body cameras. They do now. So we made that a priority. We got body cameras. So we've worked on transparency issues. When it comes to budget, the auditor, actually, they're working on a program right now that makes that budget easy part of it is to make it public so they can see the budget. The other transparency issues that was brought up tonight were grammar requests. The county attorney and a commissioner made a new policy without anybody's input and said this is the way it's going to be. I have documents in the sheriff's office that we routinely put grammar requests released, and now under this new policy, we think it all has to go to the sheriff's office and links, and it's clogged up the process, and a lot of things that we used to do are saying that we can't release them. So we've had issues now. I don't think the policy is actually something that I can challenge. These documents are documents in the sheriff's office, and they're trying to tell us if it's in their favor, which, it is, or it's not, like, give them this policy. Even the policy itself, the news agency wanted us, because they wanted some documents, and we couldn't give them to them because they got declined by the county attorney's office. It's not us. Can we send them the policy link so they can see? Can't send them the policy. So that's been difficult. So I'm going to continue to push on those things to get that cleaned up.
Somebody else said that you and Jeff Ray are listed on the board and talk about making private.
That's not true. So here's the thing on the board. I don't sit on any board with Governor Cox. I don't know if he sits on some boards. I've never been to the board. I sit on several legislative committees. Here's the reality is that comes through by Sheriff's Association. So we have seats on many committees. So on these committees, they'll put a sheriff, a chief of police, and then a bunch of others. There's a couple on there that I hate being on. I'll tell you right now, I shouldn't say I hate, but they're difficult. Like the Sentencing Commission is one of them. Very liberal groups. Here's my question. That's been raised before. Here's my question to those people. Should we just give up? Do you not want a conservative voice on these committees? Should I just say because you don't like the governor or you don't think he's doing the right thing that I as a sheriff should just give up and not have a voice for you? Because that's why we do it. So that we can have a voice. And many times on those committees, it's discouraging. You can look at the voting record, you'll see 2 in dissent. And a lot of times it's me and the chief of police that are dissenting to some of these things that they're trying to do. So for me, I don't enjoy those things. I do them because I think it's important that conservative things are raised. Several of these were very good.
Thanks for everything you're doing. Thanks for stepping up during the riots and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Preventing that from really happening.
Yeah, and that was great. And now I think you've heard me say we worked on getting our riot control team, our metro team. That's in place.
Great job with the day, too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See you.